Selamat pagi guys, apa kabar kalian semua? Semoga kalian sehat walafiat di mana saja kalian berada. Amin ya Rabbil Alamin. Hai guys, jadi hari ini aku nervous banget, sangat aktif juga, nervous juga. So hari ini guys, aku mau pergi ke bahasa Inggrisnya foraging course ya, kelas gitu seperti nyari mushroom, jamur yang bisa dimakan atau apa yang nggak bisa dimakan gitu guys ya. Jadi mengenalin apa semuanya gitu guys, dan seperti tumbuh-tumbuhan juga. Kenapa aku pergi ini? Karena wow, aku baru menyaksikan itu orang racing sepertinya. Sorry, continue to my subject. Jadi hari ini aku pergi ke foraging course kelas di Herefordshire, agak 1 jam lebih dikit gitu, tapi aku pergi sekarang hampir jam 11 karena aku takut di perjalanan ada yang diperbaiki atau enggak, takutnya macet gitu ya guys sampai sana, jadi aku mau datang early gitu. So the reason I'm taking this course, alasannya kenapa aku ambil kursus ini guys, karena di samping aku tuh interesting banget sama yang namanya tumbuh-tumbuhan yang kita nggak kenal gitu, tapi ternyata bisa dikonsumsi dan gizinya tuh guys bener-bener tinggi daripada apa yang kita beli di supermarket gitu ya guys ya. Jadi aku sangat interesting banget ya pokoknya, sangat pengen tahu gitu pokoknya. Jadi nanti kalau aku udah di sana, aku mau nanya, aku boleh ambil video sedikit atau enggak? Permisi dulu ya guys ya, biasa deh, karena dia juga kalau nggak salah ngadain apa itu namanya, seperti YouTube channel juga ya. Nanti aku cantumkan YouTube channelnya. Dari situ guys aku tahu, I know him from there because of I'm searching in YouTube channel, which is I'm going to drop down his name if anybody interested in taking course with him, and I will let you know and just give him a call. And I think it's the course called about wild something, wildlife or wild food. I'm going to let you know down below. Anyway, sekarang aku mau konsentrasi dulu sama perjalananku, dan mudah-mudahan aku nggak nyasar. That is more important. Okay, speak soon. Sampai nanti guys. Bye. Selamat pagi guys. On the road again. Di jalanan lagi, mengelilingi. Sekarang aku mau ke kota yang namanya Herefordshire. Maaf. Dimana aku mau pergi kursus guys. Kursusnya namanya, kalau Inggrisnya foraging course. Itu adalah Indonesianya kalau nggak salah ya guys ya, mencari makanan. Jadi mencari makanan wild seperti yang mushroom, mengenal mushroom yang mana edible, yang mana poison, yang beracun gitu guys ya. Dan juga mungkin aku nggak tahu nih, baru pertama kali aku mengikuti kursus ini, dan aku belum tahu kursusnya apa-apa saja. So stay tune guys, ikutin aja video selanjutnya. Nanti setelah aku tiba di sana, mudah-mudahan aku dikasih bawa apa itu namanya, bawa kamera, dan mudah-mudahan aku bisa ambil waktu dia bicara. Tapi aku harus bicara sama beliau dulu karena aku belum kenal orang-orangnya juga. So yes, sampai nanti guys. By the way, kenapa aku bahasa Inggris sekarang, separuh Inggris separuh Indonesia? Karena banyak teman-temanku dan termasuk suamiku, why don't you speak half English and half Indonesian, katanya. Bicara separuh Indonesian dan separuh bahasa Indonesia. Berhubung kita juga yang di sini kepengen tahu suamiku juga bilang, I don't even know what you talking about. Suamiku bilang, aku nggak tahu kamu ngomong apa. It'd be nice katanya kalau aku tahu, saya tahu tentang kamu bicara apa gitu loh. Oke, so makanya aku sekarang mau usahakan bicara separuh bahasa Inggris, separuh bahasa Indonesia juga. Jadi harap maklum ya guys ya, jangan marah. Bukan aku mau menunjukkan atau gimana, tapi ya itu permintaannya. Dan sekarang aku harus konsentrasi dulu dengan naik mobil, berhubung aku harus cepat dan nggak mau kecelakaan. Semoga tiba sana sampai selamat. Bye guys. Is it porcini? Is it porcini?
It is a violet, it's a porcini, and it's a cep. You're all correct, definitely. In fact, this has probably got the most names out of any mushroom on the planet, so we can give you a few more as well. So they're not just complete novices, we can't just make it all up as we go along today.
Before we get started, I just kind of need to go through the rules of foraging. Everything has rules, even foraging, but they're really, really easy. The first rule is kind of like a golden rule of foraging. Can anybody kind of guess what it might be? It's super, super simple. Really, really simple rule. Go on.
If you don't know what it is, don't eat it.
Exactly. Yeah. If you're 99% sure, that's still not enough. You have to be 100% sure you know what you have. I can't tell you how many times I've picked mushrooms, I've been 99% sure, and then kind of just had a bit of doubt. I chucked it out, and then Marlo come along and go, yeah, it is that. And you think, all right, okay, but next time I know where to go and find them. So keep everybody safe, keep yourself safe. There is no flavour in the wild that is worth your life. So super, super simple rule. Second rule is only apply what we're going to teach you today to the UK only. That's basically just because there's mushrooms out there. There's a parasol mushroom that we go for in the UK. In America, there's also a parasol mushroom which looks like it and is potentially deadly. So I'm sure in France and Germany and Europe there's nettles and that sort of thing, but everything we teach you, just kind of keep it to the UK only. That'll keep you safe as well. And that kind of brings me on to different types of land. There's different rules for different land that we go on. Most of the time when you're foraging, you'll be foraging on common land, and that's basically any green space, park, roadside verge, anything that isn't fenced off or signposted otherwise, that is common land. And we go by what the Countryside Act 1981 is, which is a massive act, has a lot to do with a bit of law and stuff, but there's only a tiny section of the Countryside Act that refers to foraging, which is really good. And that is, we're allowed to forage for anything wild on common land for personal consumption only. So I'll get back to that rules out commercial foraging, which I'll come back to in a bit. So for personal consumption only, within the 4 Fs. 4 Fs are the fruit, the flowers, the leaves and the mushrooms, or the fruit, the flowers, the foliage and the fungi. So there's something that's been missed out there. It's a really long-winded way of saying we're not allowed to uproot any wild plant on common land. But, and there's going to be a lot of buts today, guys, but we do break that rule. So things like dandelions, everybody kind of knows what a dandelion is. I don't think you're going to harm the population of dandelions in the UK to make your dandelion root coffee, which is something you can do. Or another thing you can do with dandelions is dandelion and burdock drink. Everybody heard of that? It's my absolute favourite drink in the world. I always have it when I have a chippy. And I have quite a lot of them because I'm from up north. So your environment that we all live in. So really, really simple. In terms of mushrooms, we go by what the British Mycological Society say, and that is we can't pick more, we shouldn't pick more than 1.5 kilos of mushrooms per foray. So that's really generous. That's a lot. That's like a box of mushrooms about this big. And we'll put a caveat on that from Wild Food UK, and we'll say that we won't pick. Everybody know what this is? I think we mentioned it before, didn't we?
Giant puffball.
Giant puffball, exactly. So if you do find a giant puffball, this is really small. This is a small giant puffball. The largest giant puffball that was found in the UK was found in Yorkshire, and it was 72 inches in diameter. So it was massive. So
Everything's bigger in
That is
Yorkshire.
massive.
Yeah, it is up north anyway. But yeah, it's 72 inches in diameter. It's easily going to weigh more than 1.5 kilos. I don't go armed with a set of scales or a potato shaver and expect you to start shaving off until you've got 1.5 kilos. It's one mushroom, just take it home. It's a really common mushroom, you'll find it everywhere, so it's not really an issue. So that's common land. And then if you want to find your burdock, where do you think you might find burdock mostly? No? Farmland. So we've got loads of farmland in the UK, it's absolutely covered in it. And if you wanted to go find your burdock, you'd find it in every single field you ever go to. Farmland, the rules, you know, everybody has like their bridle ways, and you can have...
We never touch them, you know, we leave anything that's on the red list, and there are 4 mushrooms on the red list, and obviously a few plants as well. If we know that something's rare, we would never ever touch it, even if we were on common land or private property. One thing Jordan missed out is that we're on private property today, and we could basically break all the rules that Jordan just told you because we have full permission from the landowner to do whatever we want to. But even here and with that permission, obviously we would never touch anything rare at all. So towards the meal at the end of the course, but obviously with the knowledge we teach you, you can go back home and forage for yourselves wherever you want to. So I think probably now's a good time to say this is the closest you'll be to porcelain for a little while before we start talking about the mushrooms. So if you do need to use the toilet.
Alright guys, so this is a giant puffball. Like I said before, it's not so giant, this is quite young. But this is the #1 safest mushroom for novice foragers to pick. The reason being, it looks like nothing else on the planet other than a football. So it's really, really simple. It's a tasty mushroom. It's not so great in your stocks and your stews or anything like that because it's a puffball, it's quite airy and spongy. So if you put it in a stock or a stew, all the pieces kind of float to the top, which isn't so great. But what you can do with a giant puffball, and like I said, in Yorkshire there was one that was 72 inches in diameter. You'll often find them a good size like this. You can slice it up into steak slices, so about this thick. Fry them in butter because that's what we do. We chuck everything with butter. It makes everything taste nicer. And it goes a little bit floppy. It's not the best.
This is #1 on the safe list, and when you cook it properly, it's a really tasty mushroom. But don't just cut it into steaks like Jordan says. It will let you down with the texture if you do that. Tastes great, but you know, ends up being a big floppy mushroom, not a steak.
When they go to spawn, do they like look like, I suppose, like a tea bag, and then when we were kids used to stamp on them?
Yeah,
exactly
the
it.
smaller
That's
varieties
exactly it,
look
yeah.
a bit like a tea bag. This one will go a little bit, the skin will sort of rot and it will go brown and dusty. And you might have kicked these around the field because they're as big as footballs, and when you kick them, a big explosion of spore dust will come out. And into slightly yellow there. And where I touch it, this is one that Jordan picked about 3 or 4 days ago. And where I'm touching it there, by the time it gets halfway round, it will be a little bit yellow. But you don't really want it when it's starting to yellow. It fry with them, you can marinate them in whatever sauces you want, and they'll toast that in quite nicely.
Spongy
I've got
thing.
something even better than that.
It's like a bread.
If you really
Japanese
want to,
thing.
slice it really thinly.
It's actually, to me, just as tasty as the one Jordan's going to show you in just a minute. But does anyone know what this one is? This is a famous one. Oh, where are you from?
Ukraine.
Okay, what do you call it in Ukraine?
Lisichki. It's like foxes.
Right, okay. Do you know the scientific name of that one? Just
Sure no.
There is some French Griselle or Gisette or something.
I think you're thinking of chanterelle. That's the one. Yeah.
Is it
so
chanterelle?
These are
Yes.
chanterelles. Yes, our famous chanterelles, one of the most sought after edible mushrooms on the planet, which makes people think that they're a bit rare, but they're not. They're common if you know where to look for them. Okay, but there are some lookalikes. So before I get on to where to look, I'll tell you how to identify them. And basically these are a bit tired. They should be bright yellow. Where we picked them from yesterday, they'd already dried out. It had a dry couple of weeks there. So these should really be bright yellow in colour. There is a paler version, and there's one that has a slightly reddish cap called the amethyst chanterelle. But these ones should be bright yellow all over the outside. Now, one of the things that all of the chanterelles, the pale ones and the amethyst ones have, is what we call false gills. So it's hard to show you on these. That one's, is there a gilled mushroom there? There isn't. We've got another gilled mushroom. I'll show you what portobello mushrooms that you get in the shops. So they're like blades, normal gills. Under the cap. So not like those bladed structures that you get on your normal shop-bought mushrooms. These are what we call false gills, like wrinkles in the skin almost under the cap, and they can go in all with wrinkles. So luckily enough, the chanterelle has another way, which is much more simple for beginner foragers to tell it apart from its poisonous lookalikes. So you've got a chunky yellow mushroom to start off with, growing normally in moss with beech or sometimes oak, but mostly around here birch trees. So that's where to go looking for them. If you're in a mossy birchwood at this time of year, I expect to find chanterelles. They're not, like I said, they're not rare. But there is a false chanterelle, which is toxic, and then there's another mushroom called the jack-o'-lantern, which is actually potentially deadly poisonous, and both of them can be similar to the chanterelle. They won't have those false gills, but you know, if they've grown a little bit deformed, they can look a bit like that. So there's another, like I say, easier identifier for the true chanterelles. And what you do is you cut them in half, and you'll find that they're yellow on the outside, but the flesh on the inside is always pure white. Whereas with its toxic lookalikes, the flesh on the inside of the mushroom will be the same colour as the outside of the mushroom. So when you cut what you think is a chanterelle in half, any of the genus that I've mentioned, you want that white flesh. They also reputedly have a bit as an identifier. It's not one I use. All I look for is those false gills. That's
sweet,
enough for me. But for you guys, if you cut it in half and you see the white flesh, then you know you're onto a winner. Like I said, use them in anything you would use a normal mushroom in. So there's that for a start. But because
we named this before, who got it right before?
Porcini.
Was it you? Porcini, exactly. And as Marlo mentioned before, it has probably the most names for a mushroom, and that's because it's one of the most sought after mushrooms for restaurants and for foragers on the planet. And it is one of the nicest tasting mushrooms that we go for foragers. And this family is a really good family for novice foragers to learn about, because we have some simple rules that will keep you safe. So this is the porcini, or the penny bun, which we call it in the UK. That's because the top of it just looks like a bread roll. You all see that? I think in France they call it the cep, and I think in America they call it the king bolete. So this family, the bolete family, is super easy to identify because it's a mushroom with a stem. It grows out the ground, so not out of wood or out the side of a tree or anything like that. It grows out the ground, and it has sponge. It doesn't have gills, you know, like the razor gills of a shopbot mushroom. It doesn't have false gills like a chanterelle. It has sponge. So that means we can put this in and use it for risottos. You know, when you get your mushrooms and you dry them out, rehydrate them with stock, use it for a risotto.
Do you use this one as well here?
Yeah, I'd still use it. I mean, this one is getting, probably it'd be today that I'd use it, to be honest.
Okay.
But even when the paws have gone yellow, it gets a bit darker.
It's been a bit handled, you know, it's had a bit of extra handling.
And there's one thing to note with the porcini.
Oh, right, okay, you were going to do it.
So, if you look on the stem, you see, like, and it gets like white at the closer to the cap at the top. You see that white webbing effect on the top? So that's a key identifier. That means we've definitely got a porcini. There are toxic boletes. So if you find a mushroom, there's one called the Satan's bolete, which is pretty toxic. There's a mushroom that's red and that has sponge on. Oh yeah. There's a black one there.
The one the dog's trying to
No, he's put them down there.
Oh.
Okie dokie.
Oh,
Right.
interesting.
Mushrooms simply because they are so strange. So they're neither a plant or an animal. They're that strange, scientists had to put them in their own kingdom. And this is one of the cool ones. This is something called beefsteak fungus or ox tongue fungus. Its scientific name is Fistuina hepatica, and you find it growing on logs like oak and sweet chestnut. So that's where you tend to find it. So it's a mushroom that grows out of trees, doesn't grow out the ground. And if you look at it, I mean, I'll let you pass it round. It's pretty.
One bit one way, one the other.
Yeah. Beefsteak fungus.
It's a bit young, that one.
Just like a piece
Oh, wow.
of wagyu.
Oh,
Now, you guys reckon this is an edible mushroom?
do you want to touch?
Yes?
Oh my.
Oh wow, it's still like fresh, isn't it? Oh,
It is.
you don't mind if I take one?
And
Okay.
it's one of the very few
It's
mushrooms
red.
Yeah, it
that we
is.
will eat raw.
Oh,
But my
wow.
advice is for you. But this one, we do eat raw. It's super easy to identify. If you find a mushroom that looks like that, it's a bracket fungus out of an oak or a sweet chestnut, and you cut into it and it bleeds and looks like a piece of meat. It's ox tongue fungus or beefsteak fungus.
It is very red. That would alarm me.
Yeah,
Is it? But
I
it's
mean,
still
yeah. So
yeah.
you'll be
the
surprised.
rule.
I kind of put this, so there's a couple of mushrooms I'll put this in the same group as. There's a mushroom called chicken of the woods. Have we all had chicken of the woods?
Yeah,
That's
I just saw that today.
bright yellow and orange. It has these really cool sulfur-like colours on it. That's an edible mushroom, hands down my favourite mushroom of all
So
time.
this one here is a beef.
I like to make a KFC with it. With this mushroom, the best kind of thing to do with this mushroom is slice it thinly, add some ginger, some garlic, some soy sauce, and kind of have it like almost like an Asian carpaccio or something like that. I'd be lying.
Thank you, I'll share.
Thank you. Ooh, didn't want to let go. Oh wow. Is it nice?
Thank you.
Okay.
I mean,
True moment.
It's edible. It doesn't smell unpleasant. Ooh.
it has almost like an acidic flavour.
It's
Like a mushroom though, does it? So a strange thing, not very mushroomy.
It's like-
Fruity.
it's-
People do say fruity, acidic, yeah.
is it
It
like
goes really
jelly?
well in creamy sauces, but it's obviously, by the taste, it's not the sort of mushroom you want to fry up with your bacon and eggs. It's something you want to use in like creamy pasta dishes,
Salad.
things that you can deal with that acidity. Yeah, carpaccio just means really slightly slow. And
That's all, yeah.
okay, well, let's go and
Who liked it?
for the meal, and that does include a few plants. So over here we're going to introduce you to some real Forager staples.
Yay! Oh, that's a good idea actually. I should do that.
Yeah, right, this looks like a good spot to... This is a plant that everyone should know about. Some of you probably do already, but for those who don't, this is a forager's salad staple for most of the year. It's around all year apart from the deepest bits of winter. So a great one to know.
They all look the same to me. What exactly are you picking?
We're going to show you. Wait till we put it in your hand. He's picking one for everyone. So
Anything we put in your hand today as well doesn't automatically mean that it's edible as well.
Okay.
So wait for the cue. Yeah. There you go, mate.
it's all over the floor.
So you can eat it. Try it.
One for you.
Thank you.
There's a good one.
Попробуй.
Okay, see if we can match it. They
Right,
look
guys,
like
so
spinach.
what you have in your hand
It's not
is
like
something.
spinach.
Well, does anybody know what it is first?
Spinach?
Spinach? No, really? No, nearly. It is common sorrel. This is common sorrel.
Common sorrel.
Something that every forager should know about because it's super easy to identify. If you look at the leaf in front of you, you'll see that it has two little tails. You see that on the bottom?
Oh yes.
Everybody see the tails on the bottom of the leaf?
Yeah.
Now, the key point of this is that them tails are pointed. They come to a definite point. And that'll come into play in a minute when I tell you about another plant.
Does this count?
Yes, exactly. Two tails and they're completely pointed. They come to a definite point. They're not rounded is the word
yes.
I'm going to use.
So I can eat
So,
this.
You can eat that one?
I
Go for
found
it.
it and I can eat it.
Go for it, yeah, absolutely. So if you guys want to give it a try, give it a taste. Don't nibble it either. Sharp.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Like
Citrusy. Acidic, yeah. So basically, it's we don't have wild lemons in the UK. But we do
Sour.
have, common sorrel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Common sorrel's got something called oxalic acid. Essentially what happens is you'll end up with kidney stones. But there is more oxalic acid in rhubarb and dark chocolate and them sort of things than there are in these leaves. Things that we do for foraging, when we're foraging stuff, some of the things that don't really have much flavour, we put common sorrel in there. So has everybody heard of wild garlic?
Yeah.
Yeah, everybody knows wild garlic. It's a forager's staple. It's a little bit cliche, yes, but it is definitely one of the best things we go for as foragers. When we make our wild garlic pestos, we don't have lemons in the wild, so we use common sorrel for that citrusy kick.
Sorry.
I'm going to run through a couple more plants here, just because they're all quite interesting. The rest of the course will be mainly about mushrooms and one tree we're going to tell you about. But whenever you come to a bit of wild grassland like this, it's never just grass. You've always got other things in there. Dandelions I'm not going to talk about. You all know dandelions are edible. They're full of vitamin A, really healthy, quite bitter and not very tasty though if you ask me. Things like dandelion honey and dandelion mead, they're all good. I'm not going to talk about dandelions very much though. We've also got over here, just wait there, I'll bring them over, but we've got wild strawberries.
Oh.
Where did they go? They're really, really common. They look just like small strawberries that you would grow in your own garden. There's 4 different types of wild strawberry. One of them is called the barren strawberry, and the fruit from that one is horrible. So before you go harvesting loads of little wild strawberries, have a taste and make sure that you've got nice, sweet tasting ones. The reason I picked this is because there's another plant down here that looks a lot like a wild strawberry. You can see it there. And growing all around here. Now, it's got 3 leaves, looks pretty similar to a wild strawberry. But unlike a wild strawberry, it has these opposing leaflets that run down the stem. Now, any of you that have got a vegetable patch will recognise this plant because you'll have weeded it out of your vegetable patches every single year. It's a plant that us foragers like because it completely replaces a spice in my kitchen, this one. It's called the Woodhaven, Geum urbanum, and it grows all over the country, again, all year round. And it's fully edible. Everything above ground is edible, but it's kind of post-apocalyptic food, really, the leaves. They're not very tasty. What we really want from this plant is the root system. Now, as Jordan said, you're not supposed to uproot plants from common land, but certain exceptions are okay with us because of common sense. Now, the reason this is an exception is because it's ubiquitous. It grows all over the country, almost as commonly as dandelions, and it's very shallow rooted. So when you dig up the roots of this plant, you wouldn't even notice that someone had been there afterwards. You don't make a mess to get to it. So what we'll do is we'll uproot a couple right here. There's an easy one to get to. There we go. Probably easy. Oh, you've got a nice easy one to get to there.
This one here, isn't it?
Right. So there you go. You don't ever get much more root than that. I'll get that one out for you. Oh, it's got. I'll get that one out for you like a professional and then completely mess it up. All right, there you go. Wow, that was a chunky root system. Actually never seen, that's some sort of deformed root system of a Woodhaven. Normally, they're just a little nest of roots like this. And like I said, these completely replace a spice in my kitchen. It's a nice aromatic spice, and since I was introduced to this plant maybe 20 years ago, I've never bought it. And you guys after today will never need to buy it either. Like I said, it's an aromatic spice. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put your culinary noses to the test. See if anyone can guess what spice this replaces. So that one, I'm not getting the smell as strong as normal, but if you hold the big clump and where I've damaged the roots there, have a smell. Now, if anyone guesses, don't shout out. Let everyone have a little smell. And I'll pass this one around this way. I'll give you a few clues. So oh, that one really. If anyone wants to have a guess, I think almost everyone's had a smell. You probably know this one from yesterday. Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Not
so
sure.
anyone that knows.
Can I try that one, please? Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so you've all had a smell now. Does anyone recognise that spicy smell?
Like an aniseedy smell.
It is a bit of an aniseedy smell, yeah. So think Christmas and think of a place that you don't like to go to. So they are, they're in, yeah, they're very past it. But they're a mushroom that I consider not safe for beginners. I haven't quite got the base of the mushroom there, but the most dangerous family in the UK for foragers is the Amanita family. That's the family that contains the death cap and the destroying angel and a few other really funky named mushrooms that are very, very poisonous. Now, this one is not in that group of mushrooms, but it's very, very similar. So I'm actually going to use this edible mushroom to give you some things to look out for as beginners, to leave behind. And the first thing is mushrooms with white gills and a skirt on the stem. That is exactly what the destroying angel and the white version of the death cap have. So the reason I don't consider this mushroom safe for beginner foragers is because it's extremely similar to the destroying angel in particular. That has a white cap, white gills, a skirt almost like this one, and at the base of the stem it has an egg sac as well, which would mean, I mean, this one has a bit of a bulbous base, so let's see if this one's still got it. No, even that one's yeah, they're all quite past it. But this one, it's called the white dappling, or the Leucoagaricus leucothites is its scientific name. And I actually did do a video of this for YouTube, but YouTube deemed it too dangerous to publish. Are in growth. This is exactly the same mushroom. This one's just had to fight its way through some grass or something like that to get to the size it is. Now, this mushroom is not an edible mushroom again. It's actually a parasitic mushroom. It's called the spindle shank. It's called Gymnotus fusipes is its scientific name. And the reason it's called the spindle shank is because it has this distinctive fat bulge in the middle of its stem, a bit like an old bobbin sort of thing. So that's what makes it the spindle shank. And unfortunately, like I said, this is one of the few parasitic mushrooms, which means that it's actually attacking the root system of this tree. And it's been said that this mushroom can actually take out half of the root system of an oak tree, which is obviously means that it's something that I don't particularly like to see. But I'm in front of a tree, and what I'm going to do is talk more about trees than this mushroom right now, because the information I'm about to give you will make all your mushroom forays a lot more successful. There are a couple of parasitic mushrooms that we go for as foragers. Things like honey fungus is a parasite that we will eat. But the main groups of mushrooms that we go for as foragers are either saprobic mushrooms or saprophytes. And to simplify that, those ones are the rotters. They're like the beefsteak fungus there that will get into a dead bit of wood, and they will rot it down and turn it back into compost for all of the rest of the plants and trees in the forest to make use of. They are incredibly important, the rotters. They turn all of the bits of wood that you see around back into nutrition for things to grow out of. If it wasn't for them, there'd be bits of wood everywhere, because wood has something called lignin in it, which only certain mushrooms can break down. So if it wasn't for the mushrooms, there'd be loads of wood and a lot less nutrition in the soil. They're fundamental to forest health, the rotters, which this isn't one of. So the rotters are things like oyster mushroom. Quite an impressive beast of a mushroom,
Wow,
but unfortunately this one is well past its best. I can tell by squeezing it that if I tear it in half, we're going to see some, well, this is the fungal kingdom, but I think we're going to see some of the fauna as well. Oh, look at that nasty yellow mold too. But inside there, it's going to be quite riddled with little maggots. You can see them there, wiggling around. So this is a mushroom that's past its best. Yuck! Can you see those tiny little maggots there? Yeah, that's a bracket fungus. Now I can't quite believe this. Did anyone see a mushroom on the floor here? There was a perfect young mushroom here that someone must have picked in the last hour. And whoever you are, you picked the wrong mushroom. It's not a good one. But I think there's one more example of it.
Guys, kita sekarang ngikutin perjalanan, guys. Meeting a new friends is nice, isn't it?
Earlier on, so I'm going to put you all to the test a little bit again. We've got a mushroom here that clearly doesn't have gills or spikes under the cap, so it's in the wider Belajar group of mushrooms. Now, if there was a mycologist here, they'd be hopping up and down going, oh, actually, that's 27 different genuses of mushrooms for millennia or tens of thousands of years. And Jordan told you the rules that have been developed over all that time by foragers that apply to all mushrooms that are growing out the ground with sponge under the cap instead of gills. So what were those rules?
No red, no blue.
No red, no blue. Nice and simple. So there's no red on the outside of this mushroom. If I cut it in half, have you still got my knife? Well, I got it back. I've got it. Well, if it stains blue when you cut it in half, even if there's no red on the outside, if it stains blue when you cut it in half, just leave it behind. If it's got no red on the outside, it's not going to be one of the very toxic ones, the Satan's belief really, and there's one other. Still one or two that can make you a little bit sick. and some of the bitter ones as well stain blue, so it's just worth staying away until you really know what you're doing, staying away from the ones that stain blue. So let's see what happens with this. The other one was really young and fresh, so any reactions are obviously stronger in ones that are young and fresh. Let's see if this one turns blue at all.
It does.
Right, this is a mushroom which you don't want to eat, but it's only subtly turning blue. This isn't one of the highly toxic boletes at all. It is one that you don't particularly want to eat though, not really because it's toxic, but because it's not very tasty. So again, that blue test rules out some of the more bitter ones. And this one is called the iodine bolete. And well, I think it's called the iodine bolete. If it smells weirdly of chemicals, which it does, then it's the iodine bolete. So stay away from ones that stain blue like this. And remember those rules. No red, no blue. Now, with the
Oh, wow.
It's quite an old one, this one. We've got a fresher one that we brought with us actually, so Marla's just got to go get it. Okay. Alright, so we've got another one here. It's kind of gone a bit over, to be honest with you. It might be alright. But what family is this, first of all?
Bolete.
Bolete, exactly. Why is it in the bolete family? Sponge, yeah. Repetition really does work, guys. Now, what do we notice about this mushroom straight away?
Edible, in theory.
In theory, yeah.
It's got red on it.
It's got red on it, exactly.
Where? Oh, okay, I missed that part.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
what should we not do with this mushroom?
Don't eat.
Right. Okay, so this is an edible bolete, and it's a really good edible bolete as well. But there is subtle differences to try and tell the difference between this and the toxic ones. And one of them is if you look on the stem, which is also red, you see how it has tiny, tiny dots? These little tiny red dots.
Okay.
That tells me that this is something called a scarlatina bolete. The scarlatina bolete has this red dot effect on the stem. But for you guys, as novice foragers, until you really get your eye in and you know what you're doing, it's really tiny. It's been eaten as well, so. But you can kind of see these tiny dot effects.
In the red.
In the red, yeah. So you guys are going to keep this one in the ground to begin with, just until you get familiar with it, because this is a tasty edible bolete. This is a bolete I use with game. So any sort of game, give anything or anything like that, it goes really well.
Is it?
So,
No, there's 14.
oh sorry.
Sorry.
No, I'm just writing the name.
See, it has tiny dots. It hasn't got webs. Remember with the porcini, it had something. Oh, brilliant.
Same, right?
Yes, exactly the same. Oh, wicked. Right, okay, so you can see on the stem a little bit more clearer.
Yeah.
That sort of dotted effect. Yeah. That's what you're looking for. And if you look at the gills, it has bright red gills. You see that sort of dotting effect on it.
Oh, how good's my camera? Not that good. Oh yeah, that's so much better than it's like focusing on the background.
And it will go instantly blue.
Yeah.
It's a really, really quick reaction. Right, so that's just failed both them tests. So you won't be taking this one home. But it is an edible, it is a good edible mushroom. But like I said, after a bit more experience, you know your different boletes and stuff, that's kind of when you get your eye in for it.
Yeah, this is one I consider probably as good as the porcini mushroom. But unlike the porcini mushroom, which doesn't need to be well cooked, You just have to
You guys
make
wanna
sure
pass it
you
round?
cook
Give it a
this
smell?
one properly, you know,
Pure
fry it
blue, right?
hard,
But that's okay.
or put it in a stew that's cooking for, you know, a fair while. Whereas
like a great
porcinis you can eat practically raw. So the reason we know it's an edible one, did you go through that? Yeah, the red dots on the stem, but really, for me, that's quite difficult to discern. You need to really be confident in what you're doing to put this one in the bag, but luckily enough we are. So yeah, I just need my knife. Where the stem's being cut, look at how vibrant, dark, navy blue that's going, and still going and still going. If you wait 20 minutes, that'll go back to yellow. Yeah, when you cook it, it doesn't go blue. So anyway, this is a really good edible. It's going in the bag, and if you do get into mushrooms and foraging, the first family, you know, you initially go for the really easy ones like the giant puffball that Jordan showed you at the beginning. But when you start looking outside of the real easy ones like puffballs and chanterelles, this group, the Belajar group, is the first group I advise you to start looking out for and experimenting with, because those rules are so simple and straightforward. And if you follow them, you've got 50 mushrooms that you can pick in the UK. So look out for sponge under the cap, get comfortable with all of those, and then you can start picking this one as well. The one that you really need to rule out is the one I showed you before, so I'll just show you it again. The Satan's Bellow, which, unlike the dots on the stem of this one, if I show you the Satan's Bellow, what you should just be able to pick up is that. Oh well, actually we've got an insect, red netting instead of red dots.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've got. I think it's trying to run away.
That's not the lime tree that you get your limes off of. It's the linden family of trees, which are really, really useful for foragers for two really lovely things. So first of all, these leaves are supposed to be a pocket guide. It didn't fit in my pocket. So these leaves, the young shiny green ones like this, are just absolutely perfect as salad filler. They're succulent and juicy. They're not like dry, papery leaves. You know, there's so many edible leaves around, even like those woodhaven leaves on the clove root. In a salad if you want to, but they're dry and their texture's not very nice, and their flavour is a bit bitter. Mild in flavour. They're what we use as nice kind of lettuce substitute in all our salads. So we put in this here is what it's made of. So before those little baubles came out, this helicopter leaf would have had 2 or 3 little off-white flowers underneath it. And in this little avenue here, there probably would have been about 5 million of them. Trees, lime trees, fruit prolifically. At one point in the year, they change colour because of these flowers. Now, these flowers, and this whole system here, the helicopter leaf, the stem and the flowers, what gets dried out to make TL, which is a lovely sweet green tea that you can pay a fortune for in the shops, or you can just keep your eyes on your local lime tree and get all of the flowers off of it that you can reach at whatever time of year, normally May, that they're flowering. Put them in a nice open vessel where they can dry out naturally, and then just put the lid on and you've got your TL for the rest of the year. And it really is, if you like your green teas and that kind of thing, it's a really nice one. And all it is, literally all it is the flowers and this bit of this tree put in hot water. Nice and simple. So don't buy it, it's just a rip-off as far as I'm concerned. Now, how do you recognise a lime tree? We've come over here and all of these trees would have it if they hadn't been trimmed back, as you can see on that one over there. The lime tree is basically the only tree in your parks that grows its own bush all around the base of it. So when you're walking in a park, from a distance you can see lime trees because they've got all of this what we call sucker growth around the base. And if it's not trimmed back, we wouldn't be able to get within 3 or 4 feet of this tree. It would have a giant bush all around here, disguising the base of the tree. So if you see that from a distance, you know it's a lime tree, and you can easily go and fill up your salad bag very, very quickly. And if it's in flower, you can collect all of those to make your TL or linden tea or lime tree tea, it's sold as. All it is the flowers of this tree. It's likely to have a lime tree. They're more common than you might think. So look out for them, eat the salad leaf, and any of you that want to, they almost taste of nothing.
Oh, the young one, is it?
So as long as you've got the light green one.
Not bad.
I now know in this park there's likely to be more. I actually know for a fact that there's about 30
That's a
more.
good one.
But when you see this is a lovely big
It is
mushroom,
actually, isn't it? A ring.
but it's not in fruit right now. You see this in your parks quite a lot. So when you're walking the dog, just make a mental map. There's a ring there, I've seen it, and walk past that ring until it fruits, and then you'll see what mushroom's in it. So this is a nice big, probably 18-foot ring.
Guys, baterai ko udah mau habis, jadi mungkin aku nggak bisa ambil semuanya, guys. Oh, kita pulang gimana? Oh wow. Oh, massive. Is it the bold one? Oh, that's the fresh one, eh?
Wants to tell me what they are. You all know.
Forgot.
These are giant puffballs. That one over there, the big one where it's damaged, is clearly showing that yellowing. That's. Remember we talked about families or groups of mushrooms, like the ones with sponge under the cap. If you can figure out what family or group of mushrooms in, then you're halfway towards getting it identified as edible or poisonous, because you can apply rules to certain families. Now, the family Jordan's going to introduce you to now is more common and has more edible members than any of the other families that we could teach you about today. There are more edible members of this family than there are of the boletes and the chanterelles and the puffballs put together. So knowing about this family and how to determine whether this family are edible or not will enhance almost all of your autumn forays, because when there's no porcinis, there's always one of these. So sorry.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Alright, so what I've got in my hand, guys, is a family of mushrooms called the Russula. And they have a really common name, which is the Brittle Gills. And the reason they're called the Brittle Gills is, for whatever reason, millions of years ago, this family of mushrooms went a different direction compared to our field mushrooms, our porcinis, that sort of thing. And basically, the cells of this mushroom are circular rather than oblong like your field mushrooms. So when you have circular cells together, there's always going to be spaces between the cells. That's what makes them brittle. And if you look at it as well,
Down here we've got a very large fungus, but it's only a baby. It's only a youngster. This is a mushroom that's going to get to maybe 5 times as big as that. It'll grow into a really when it's at its freshest. It's not one that you're of chicken or meat. And this one, it really does have that kind of texture when you cook it. So it's a good meat substitute. And because of that, at Wild Food UK, we've named it Pork of the Woods, because we've got beef, we've got chicken, and this one can be the pork. But if I pass it round, a nice soft, juicy polypore. There you go, there's one big chunk.
I saw this morning.
Yeah.
Sorry?
you're going to eat it today.
Yeah, it's a good one.
How will you prepare? Like, how would you prepare this?
The Scarlatina bolete, there's 1 or 2 of them in the bag. They're ones that you want to cook on a high heat. So we're going to fry them up. Otherwise they're not very succulent, they're a bit papery. The nuts you can eat, but they're a right fat, really, unless it's a mast year where the nuts are twice the size of normal. It's not really worth it, because you have to get them out of the spicy taste, and then you have to get them out of the little slivery stuff that's inside as well. So a lot more than it's worth for the reward. Mushrooms, and what I'm going to do is I'm still going to use a bit of this mushroom stock. And I highly recommend all of you buy mushroom stock if you like mushrooms. There's a few reasons. They like Marmite does. They enhance the flavour of your mushrooms. But I'm going to do a creamy sauce here with these mushrooms. And what the stock, the pate texture is red split lentils. You just overcook them until they're like stodge, with a bit of mushroom stock in again, and some dried mushrooms, because you've got to pile flavour into lentils.
This is
and
yummy.
Then all you do.
Hello guys, so that's it for today. Hari ini aku udah selesai foraging course-nya, dan aku tadi harus charging dulu mobileku karena mobileku habis baterainya, dan thanks God ada dapat teman Philip and Courtney. They are just amazing people that I met today and thank you for Philip and Courtney to buy me a nice cup of tea and then sit down with me a little bit. Yeah, thank you for your help and for everything. Now I have to go home before it's getting dark. Finally, yes, my battery. I'm already set my battery. You set into the mode, the lower mode, and I just did it. So yeah, finger crossed I'm going to go home. So guys, mudah-mudahan aku selamat sampai di tempat. Amin ya rabbil alamin. Sampai nanti guys. Bye. Hi again guys. I just want to say a massive thank you to Marlon and Jason. They coach us today, teach us how to foraging. Ya, aku hanya mau berterima kasih saja dengan Marlon sama Jason tadi yang ngajarin kita tentang foraging, tentang bagaimana kita mengetahui tumbuh-tumbuhan yang poison atau yang edible gitu ya guys ya. So it's very interesting. This course is very worth it, and I recommend to everyone else to come and do this course, because if you, especially some of my friends out there who is watching my video this time and do this, trust me, 100% is satisfied and very, oh my god, I don't know what to say, but it's just, I'm loving it, you know. I just can't wait for the next one soon. I hope I will be able to do it if I'm not working. So ya, aku hanya mau kasih tahu aja, kursus hari ini sukses dengan mantap deh, pokoknya 100% guys. Berhubung aku nggak tahu mau bicara bagaimana, tapi banyak sekali yang tumbuh-tumbuhan seperti mushroom dan pohon dan pokoknya lain-lain deh yang aku pelajarin today, hari ini. So I basically know nearly quarter of it. It's nice, and the food is so beautiful, and they cooking the food as well for us at the end of the course. So it's very recommend, and you guys go for this foraging course if you know, if you are really outgoing, like nature lover like me, like a wild lover. It's just do it. I am 100% recommend you just do it, because I'm so happy, and I come home with a big smile, and I've been waiting for this for 2 years. Would you believe it? 2 years I've been waiting for this course, and finally I've found it somewhere, even though a little bit further distance, but it's not that couple hours, unless if I get lost somewhere, knowing me. Anyway, yes, 100% I do love it, this course, and definitely going again if I'm not working. I said, yeah, aku bakalan pergi nanti lagi, mau ikut kursus ini buat kursus yang lainnya, jadi aku bisa 100% gitu know about wildlife and wild food and everything, anything. So sampai di sini dulu guys, and I will be taking more video about this if I'm not if I'm out about, and if I'm not lazy, and if I'm not sick, of course, touching wood, I hope not. So yeah, I'll speak to you soon, and hope you like my video this time, and bye, ciao. Dan satu lagi guys, nanti aku cantumkan the name of the wild course, the wildlife course, foraging, if you want to know where I took this course and where did I find out. And he is on the YouTube channel as well, so check it out, his YouTube channel, and subscribe if you like. And yeah, if you like to come to his course, feel free to give them a call or email. So yes, that's it. Ciao.
Hungry? Is it good?
Good.
Your Earl Grey tea?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.